Hello everybody and welcome back to the Atari Guy. And in this episode we're going to be taking a look at one of the computers I got a long time ago from the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. This here, Acer Aspire Revo. And this is from the first Vintage Computer Festival I went to. This was actually in the 50th subscriber special. That's a new special in Laura Tries Windows ME, as well as the setup I show after the show in the one picture that's on the desk I had down here with the monitor. So this is that computer, and what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be upgrading it with an SSD. This thing has a mechanical hard drive currently with Windows 10 on it, but we're going to be putting an SSD in here, and we're going to be installing Chrome OS Flex. So the SSD, if you remember following VCF, I got a whole bunch of SSDs, and so I put an SSD in here and installed the same OpenCore patcher that I used to get macOS Sequoia on the iMac that was featured in the last episode. So I'm taking the SSD from this, and we're putting it into the Acer, and I've got the original SSD that I had in this machine, and so we're going to be putting this back in here. This thing has macOS High Sierra, and this thing has Sequoia, and it does run slow just like that other iMac, but it did run very well on the last supported version, which was High Sierra. And so we're going to be taking the SSD out from this machine, putting it into this machine, and then we're going to be installing Chrome OS Flex. And if you remember, we took a look at Chrome OS Flex in a video from last year where we installed, we installed it on my sister's laptop. And so we're going to be installing it to a desktop this time rather than a laptop. So let's get started. Alright, so here's the SSD. Here's the MacBook. I've got two screwdrivers. Hopefully one of them works. And this thing is missing some screws, so this won't be as hard, and I think they're all the same screw. So, I've taken apart this Mac a couple times before, so I know what I'm doing here. Oh, it's got these standoffs that I must have taken from this. Ew. I forgot I had the screws on there, and I kind of lost, like, all of them. It was already missing some screws. Now I lost them all. Okay, well, I found one screw, and I lost the other 2 or 3 that were on there. Luckily, this isn't a main computer. I got a new Mac, too, so that'll be a fun thing to take. Oh, this is a hex bit. Like, this is one of the... Alright, so I'd like to apologize for whatever reason. I either didn't record it, the camera died, something happened that I don't have a couple of clips from this recording. So that was putting back the hard drive, putting back the lid, or whatever else there was. I can't remember exactly. But that also includes the first part of taking apart the laptop, or taking apart the desktop to put in the SSD. So if something doesn't make sense, it's because there's missing clips there of me first taking it off and then struggling to figure out how to remove the hard drive. So you kind of see part of that struggle. Again, I'm in the middle of editing this, but for whatever reason, just something doesn't seem right, and there's missing clips as I'm working on it. So I just wanted to throw that out there and add that to that. So in post to do this, I have it on my iMovie, so I can't record just audio, so I recorded a video to record me speaking about this while I'm editing it. So I had to add something over it. So I added over one of the Windows default screensavers. So just wanted to share that. I thought it was fun, and so I wanted something, and that's what I found online.
Okay, so I had a tutorial open on my phone, and what we have to do is, I did it right. I did have to remove the motherboard screws. Now we have to remove the heatsink and that thing. Yeah, this thing is not upgradable. So on an upgradability scale, this thing fails. Alright. Oh, look at that. Little, heatsink. Which, yeah, heatsink. Looks like it was just thermal tape. And now we need to remove the hard drive. Which is done by... Oh, the hard drive. I was looking here and I'm like, oh wait, how do I do that? No. The antenna cables unplug themselves. So now we just gotta... Well... Anything in addition added onto this? No. Nothing. Alright. So now, all we gotta do... And... Screw it in. I'm surprised. This was way easier than I expected it to be. And also not really. And also really. Alright, my friends here, we're done. And look at that, no screws left over. But, dust. I'll throw those out in a minute. But, this computer is all done. It's upgraded with the hard drive. I think it's upgraded to the most RAM it can have. So now all we got to do is connect this thing up to my monitor, which is a TV, because this thing actually has HDMI on here, so that is both audio and sound. It does have VGA, but it does not have a sound output, so this is more for connecting a second monitor, which I don't have, but I have my nice Logitech all-in-one keyboard and mouse, which is why I got this one to specifically work for the TV. So we're going to be using this for the video. And so we just got to plug in our wireless receiver, and this thing has now a ton of portage. It's got 3 USB on the back, or 4 USB, but 3 now, and then 1 on the side and 1 on the front right here by the power button. The power button one used to have a cover, but I lost the cover because I constantly had stuff plugged in. This thing was always filled with USB plugs because I always had this connected to my regular stuff. So now all we got to do is get this thing connected up to my monitor with an HDMI cable and power. But before that, and I adjusted the camera before that, I have to install Chrome OS Flex on a USB stick. That would be good. So I thought last time I'd show you how I install it. So I have a USB stick plugged into my computer, and this is an upgraded setup here. This was back in the studio, but I have the black HP laptop from VCF Midwest. That's the one I upgraded to have now 8 gigabytes of RAM and an SSD, the same SSD that we just put in the system because I got 6 of those. And so I've got a USB stick plugged in here, and it's connected up to the monitor using a HDMI to VGA adapter. So, alright, but let's get started with the Chrome OS Flex. Identify your Chromebook, select a list from the model, select a manufacturer, is it Chrome, or is it, no, Google Chrome OS Flex, select the product Chrome OS Flex, continue, insert the 14 gigabytes, that's an external hard drive that I use for files. Alright, all data and partitions on, what is even on this stick? That's a good question. And yes, this is running Windows 11. And this is where I do my editing and stuff on here. So, let's go to USB drive F, and... oh, okay, this was one I was using for, looks like Windows stuff. Not quite sure if any of that's necessary, but let's create now, and I'm assuming this is going to take about 15 minutes, so I'm not going to, but I'm not going to make you sit through this all, nor am I going to do any of the stuff I usually do. I'm actually going to be setting up the computer to work, so power and stuff like that, but I will be right back, and we will be looking right at the computer, and we'll be booting on to Chrome OS Flex. Okay, so flash drive is all burnt. Now we just gotta plug into the computer and turn on my power strip. And monitor, let's turn the TV on. Okay, the computer light's on, but my monitor's not turning on. Also, I have a HDMI capture card, but I just don't have it working now. No signal. The fan is running, by the way. I'm not quite sure what the problem is, if it's a problem with the monitor, because sometimes the monitor doesn't work. I mean, I was trying to plug my Commodore 64 and then it didn't work. Okay, I turned it off, and if it's not automatically turning on. If you remember, the Dell computer was having that trouble, and turning it off, it would automatically turn back on, and it would actually boot to anything. It would just show up with no signal. But I hear it clicking, and so I don't know if that's the light turning on or what. But otherwise, the fan is spinning, but nothing's appearing on screen. So I have the lid taken off and I've unplugged both the antenna wires and nothing's happening. So as you can see, the fan is spinning, but nothing quite literally is happening. Let's try removing the RAM modules and seeing if that makes a change. Also, it looks like this is a speaker here. It looks like it's a speaker there. That is a speaker. Of course, does something. So what the... Wait, let's try again. So it does something, and that, yes, it is. Why doesn't it, so it's not posting. I don't know if this thing has a post beep. Sorry, kind of scared me the first time. I was totally not expecting it. So... Okay, one RAM stick in. Oh my god, it did it! That RAM stick must be bad or something. Oh. Yep, there we go. BIOS. Press delete. Yep. Date not set, of course, because I reset it. As I showed you, I reset the CMOS, the date. And then, for some reason, it's completely off the screen. Then we'll click F10, save, setting, and exiting. Okay. So, I guess the RAM stick is bad, so we're just gonna have to test it out. And yes, it does make the post beep. Because you can hear it. So, let's see if it will boot into Chrome OS Flex. So, this RAM stick must be bad or something. I don't see reason to believe it would be. Maybe it just wasn't socketed right. Because I did remove it, so... We'll give it a minute. Alright, so it's taking its time. I unplugged it, and like at that moment, it like kind of glitched out, and it showed the Chrome OS Flex logo, but it was also kind of like glitching into the Acer screen. So I don't know what happened. So this time I'm gonna leave it plugged in, and I'm gonna let it sit, because it did take a couple of seconds, but I was growing impatient, which that was my first mistake, growing impatient with it. Yes, there is stuff on this hard drive, and if it's booting into the hard drive, it's going to have a hard time booting into it. So let's grab my keyboard again and let's unplug it, which I'm not going to do what I did last time, and we're going to click F12, and it does this auto adjusting, and as you see, it's kind of like going off screen. I'm assuming it's auto adjusting and assuming that the screen ends there. So there's the SSD, which if we select the SSD, yeah, as you see, it's probably trying to load it, but it's not going to be able to, which I didn't think about because it's probably automatically going to the SSD when it should be going to the USB, because the SSD obviously has an operating system. As I said, it's got macOS on it, which obviously this computer is not going to be able to boot macOS because it's not a Mac. So we need to make it automatically go to the USB stick, which I should have thought about in the first place, and I'm assuming it's just automatically going right to there, so we'll give it a minute to load now. We won't grow impatient this time, and last time, like I said, I did see the Chrome OS Flex logo, so let's see if it works, and after this, you saw it there. There we go. I said it was glitching out before. Your system is repairing itself, please wait. And I'm not going to be using this PS2 keyboard anymore. I'm going to be using this nice wireless keyboard. Your system is repairing itself, please wait. I hope I didn't, like, accidentally break it. And I have to get the, monitor for this computer, or not monitor, this, the remote for this TV, because I want to fix it. So I did mean monitor. And yes, it is a little off-screen here, so you can tell that it's off-screen, but you can tell by the black bar there that it is. And you can tell it's not OLED, because the blacks don't look black. Alright, so I just unplugged it, and I re-secured the antennas. And the TV's off, of course. And yes, the PC speaker does work, because before, when the RAM was put in wrong, it didn't work. So I've also got to plug in or put back on the front cover, and there we go, Chrome OS Flex. Isn't that cool? I don't know why it does that weird, like, glitch Acer screen. Yeah, like that. Alright, so it should work now. And this isn't the monitor I'm going to be using it on. I've got another location for it, but this is just how I'm setting it up. So, let's get started. Ooh, it's already lagging. And yes, see, this is running from the USB. So there we go. Wi-Fi is working. Alright, so it's looking like it's having some trouble connecting to the network, and so maybe it's the antenna, maybe the antenna just doesn't work, maybe it doesn't support it, because obviously my networks are showing up. One of them's my guest, and one of them's the home, and as I said before, when it only shows the two networks, that's usually not a good sign. Yeah, it says it's having trouble configuring it. So in the end, I was able to get it to work. I had some trouble with the antenna. I was plugging them into the wrong plugs on there. I was plugging them into what are basically just additional screw or grounding holes instead of plugging them into the actual antenna plugs. So that was my problem. And I didn't record any of the final parts of this, but again, it was just signing into Google and then going through the setup. So besides that, but I have it working now. Everything's working great. So that's it for today's video, and I will see you next time. By the way, I'm sorry. I apologize for the fact that this video, there's been like gaps in uploading, but there will be more videos coming out. Again, I'm not gonna work on the schedule, so there might be a new video coming out later this evening. This video is being uploaded in the morning. I'm finishing editing it, and then so there might be videos later in this evening, or possibly tomorrow and the day after, because I have 2 additional videos I've recorded, and they'll be up, but I don't think I'm going to go with the schedule right now, so I'm just going to try and upload as much as possible. But if I see it fit, I might go back to an upload schedule, but I'm not going to make any promises now. That's it for today, and I will see you next time.